Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Monday. I'll write it up here. December 16th, 2024, and today's topic will be leveling up thumbnail sketches. I'll just put thumbnails here. And before we begin, welcome back if you are returning, and welcome if you're new. I sketch and post every day, and I use timers, usually 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. Today I'll use 10. Usually I've been building up towards 10-minute sessions and usually do anywhere from 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, somewhere around there. I think 30 minutes is usually pretty good. But I started a 10-minute timer. If you want to use that to build a sketching habit, you can do that. I still use it to this day, every day, a few times a day. I always use it for when I'm doing art. But yeah, it's a new week, and the main theme this week, I think, will be basically kind of going back to some of the older videos I did and revising it, reviewing it, redrawing it. But yeah, we'll get into all of that. So yeah, the topic is leveling up thumbnails, and it'll take more than one video. Of course, usually that's the case I found. But the main thing is to do the daily sketching habit and to sketch, and to also just share some ideas I have that I think is helpful if you want to draw and get better at drawing, which I do, and I'm just wanting to share that. So with that said, let me explain a little bit of what's going on here. I mean, I could have started like a brand new page, but I thought this was basically kind of the idea that kind of sparked the theme for this week. So these are basically thumbnails, and I did this the other day and just doodled and decided that it could be turned into monsters, because I'm always into world building, so, and character design and stuff like that, and concept art, I guess. And so I was turning doodles into potential monsters and creatures and stuff, and it's pretty much just doodles. However, it kind of goes into this, like what I'm going to talk about today, which is how to level up, for lack of a better term, or maybe the perfect term for it. So yeah, we'll talk about that. I don't know that I'll do, maybe I'll do a little bit of this. So I got these sketches from what I'm going to be talking about today, which is this other sketchbook. So this sketchbook was from a few months back. It says 7/15/24. So if you're curious, I made a video of it. So this sketchbook was the one before the one that I'm currently using, and I pretty much made a video almost on every page. Not all of it, but most of it. And the video was called Sketching Different Body Types, and it was one of the first videos when I came back to posting after time away from it, because I only posted a little bit even before that. So I won't link to it. It's called Sketching Different Body Types. It's in the figure drawing playlist. I haven't watched that video because, I mean, I don't always want to rewatch my old videos, honestly, but I believe in just by looking at like the sketches, the main thing for me is I believe in the information. But since then, I mean, I've gotten more comfortable making these videos and stuff. So for me, that was the challenge, or the thing I was working on. But the information is good as far as how to sketch, like the different body types and thumbnailing and stuff like that. So as I look at it, and that's one good thing about going back to older sketches and sketchbooks is you can be more objective about it. So yeah, like I think this is fine. So that's what we'll do this week, is just kind of, well, what I wanted to do was just to make sure that even the stuff the information that's in my older videos is still good and useful, and I can see that it is. So what we'll do to level up these thumbnails, so part of this was inspired by some of the comments and just some of the, again, like organic kind of intuitive development of the videos that I do, because I do them every day. And this is the most consistent I've ever been with actually sketching and developing ideas and stuff. So it's exciting for me, and I'm excited to share what I know and my experience and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of different concepts, and so we'll be methodical about it, which will be methodical and will be meticulous, which is what I like. So just to begin with, some definitions. So this size right here, so you can kind of see just based on the pen, you could see here, like this starts to go into the territory of a sketch and not a thumbnail. So this could be like just a quick sketch that happens to be about figure drawing and constructing the figure from imagination, basically, is what this is. And this is the mannequin form. It's the mannequin form. And that was kind of what the original video was about. And initially my videos were kind of like that, just I was clarifying sort of how I drew things. And also I wasn't sure about the different beginner and intermediate and advanced level of artists, or like stuff like that. So that's what that is. And then here, this is more like a thumbnail, so it's about half the size, and they were from imagination. And so one thing I'll do is I'll always mention, so today I'll use some reference, and I'll always mention when it's from imagination or from reference, because it does make a difference. So you can kind of think of drawing as from reference, from copy, in other words, from imagination, or maybe, yeah, let's just call it that, and then sort of the in-between. And the way I do stuff is sort of a mix. And so yeah, like that's what works best for me. But yeah, that's kind of another topic also, but I'll always mention it. And so yeah, these are from imagination. And so the idea is, so part of this has to do with creating illustrations, which is not really the ultimate goal, but one of the like goals for me for when I'm drawing is to create illustrations. But as far as like the purpose is sort of shifted for me, because maybe initially the purpose was for commercial work. So I guess it's still commercial work, but it's for my own intellectual property, so to speak. So with that said, just to kind of get going with get sketching, so what I did was I took this thumbnail. So none of these things I think are complicated, but maybe the way it's organized might not be apparent without. That's kind of the benefit, I guess, of classes or school or something like that. It's more organized. So I feel like a lot of this information is very common, very easy to find. There's just a ton of tutorials and how-tos and information about anything under the sun. But the way it's organized isn't always that helpful, especially if you are wanting to learn certain things and get better at certain things. And so that's one of the benefits, I guess, of some kind of curriculum. Now, I don't want people to think that this is a school or a class or anything like that, I don't mind calling it like a workshop. So this is where work gets done. So, and I'm not going to work on anything I don't believe in, and I'm not going to talk about stuff I don't believe in. So anything I say, it's stuff that I legitimately use in order to do my work. So for example, thumbnails are not uncommon or anything like that. They're pretty basic and common, and you can see it, and you probably have used it. But sometimes, so going back to the idea of working from reference or working from imagination, it's nice to be able to so that's 10 minutes. I'll start another one. If you're building a sketching habit, then you might just want to sketch for 10 minutes and come back. So let's just, for me to also get warmed up. So a thumbnail could be anything. So I'm going to glance at some reference, and yeah, I'm just going to do a thumbnail real quick of just what I see on my like Pinterest feed. It's mostly medieval stuff. So you can do a thumbnail from reference. We'll see how this format works. I'm doing my best to fit everything in here. So you can get the idea. So you can do a thumbnail like this. And again, this is just if you want ideas. This is one way to just kind of start sketching if you're looking for like just ideas on what to do. So that's one thing, is just to do a thumbnail. And then once you do that, you can just work off of the thumbnail from reference and just do like another one. And that's one way to figure out kind of like the proportion, because you can adjust. And if it's a thumbnail, then you don't really sweat the details and it's not a big deal. So just scribble or doodle another thumbnail based on the previous one, which was off of reference. So sometimes that's like a really interesting thing in general, and maybe like a new thing for people to learn to draw better. But if this is something that you do already, then that's fine. We're going to level it up. So the next thing would be, so that's for like a warm-up or practice or a way to get into it, especially like if it's a topic. But yeah, so I actually like that. I think it's a really fun practice or exercise. So once you get kind of warmed up, so just looking at this, again, this was just from an old video a few months back. Part of this was proportions, playing around with proportions. So I'm going to, for now, just cover this up. All right, so we can focus on this. So thumbnails is fun in and of itself, just thumbnailing things. However, it's also good to figure out proportions. So if you just kind of throw down a lot of like different things like this, you can figure out the proportion. So, and we're talking about the figure. So sometimes you want to do like the mannequin without the clothes, or just like the bare mannequin. Sometimes the proportion is based upon the clothes. But it's important to get good at this, so to speak. Same way with if you draw it bigger, you should be able to replicate this. And that's why I came up with like these shapes. It's just a shorthand. But notice that this is about the proportion, and you can move it around if you want. Again, the figure drawing playlist has all of the details. Again, there's a ton of tutorials about stuff like this too, including my own stuff, the videos. But this is, we'll level this up, so to speak, but this is something to get almost like second nature. This is important for the way that I like draw and paint and stuff like that. I mean, or to know how to draw. I mean, I'm not saying like this is the only way or the proper way or anything like that, but these are things that I use constantly, and you can just base that on the results. So if you like how I make pictures or how I draw, then you can just use that as a criteria. So yeah, just to get warmed up, and it is a good warm-up. So just going back to this, you'll notice that even though this was a few months back, I mean, obviously I'm not going to draw that much different, but I think I'm more comfortable drawing and recording it, so there's that. But I believed in the information, and so you can see that it's like it's not that different is what I'm getting at. So like with that said, I'll just kind of use the ones I just did as a basis, so it's just coming from the same information. Again, I have links to this in the figure drawing playlist that I made. So we'll be doing that this week, this kind of thing. I feel like it'll help me out, and it hopefully will help you out. So yeah, let's move on to the leveling up. So you can see that I kind of did that here. That's what we'll go over, and I'll just do it on here. But this can be applied to these doodles, and part of why I wanted to even do this video, or the theme for this week, is I looked at that and I thought like that really could be nothing, or it could be something, and so I was kind of curious about the process. So there's a lot of different approaches. So this one, I just glanced at some reference, for example. It could be from a book, it could be from the internet, whatever. And then these, this is the stuff to remember and to practice. This is just from memory or imagination. So that's the drawing the figure, the construction of the figure. And again, you can have, it could be whatever. It could be a stick figure, if it helps. So I don't think this is anything that new. So there's that. But it's important. That's the thing. So I want to at least talk about it. So the next thing would be, let's say that you have something like this. So let's take kind of this thumbnail and level it up. So one way to do that would be to, if you don't really have an idea and you just want to draw something and just practice and draw, for example, one thing that you can do is just browse, kind of like what we did here, but like the thumbnail was from imagination. And so I'm just browsing the my Pinterest feed, and I'm just gonna look for anything really that, and that's part of like what's going on, is how to mix drawing from reference with drawing from imagination and just get better at drawing, like, period. So yeah, let's just do that. So I'll just take this. So this was from imagination, just based upon like a stick figure or a thumbnail. And the reason that I emphasize learning how to draw the thumbnail and learning what the proportions are is so that you can, like, first of all, decide how big of the, I'll draw it kind of this big just so that it shows up on camera, so that you can decide how big of a drawing that you're going to do, or a sketch. So I'm going to keep the same pose. So you should be able to replicate that by using the proportions that you set up, and it should look pretty similar as far as the gesture of it. And the reason it's important to practice this kind of thing is so that you can draw quickly without worrying about it. Because if you had to draw a very detailed picture every single time, you're not going to do it. You're not going to want to do it. So you can see that it's basically the same. It could be the same character. It's basically the same pose, and that's how you do that. And you can refine it to make it look more like a specific character if you want. And the reason for this is, again, so that you can get better at drawing and draw a lot and draw it over and over quickly, and ultimately leading to a more finished drawing or an illustration or whatever. So notice that I'm already kind of creating a character just by doing this. So that's how you go from this to this. So this is not a thumbnail, this is a sketch right here. It's not a thumbnail. You can actually put a decent amount of detail just in this. You might not be able to get like the face like detail, but that's what I was doing here. So we'll get to that. So just drawing this is already a good practice, basically, if you're looking for something to practice. The next thing could be, like I was saying, you could look at reference. So I just drew this from imagination, from memory. But I did this off of the thumbnail because sometimes this could be the kind of the hard thing. Like if you're drawing kind of big, sometimes it's hard to figure out the pose that way, is what I'm saying. And then the next thing could be just kind of glancing at what I have on my Pinterest feed, so I can begin to make a character out of it, because I see like different wardrobe costumes and stuff, so you can begin to add detail to it. So the point of this is that what I notice, this is also what I notice in myself, is it wasn't as big of a deal back in the day because the internet wasn't around when I was a kid. So I wasn't as dependent on it. But I noticed that people are kind of dependent on it to draw things, and again, I get the whole appeal of using reference. I mean, I'm using it right now, so I understand why, and that it can also be fun because it's letting you focus on drawing without having to try to come up with a costume or anything like that. So I get that. But then if you want to learn to draw, which is what I'm doing, I'm wanting to always get better at drawing, then it's good to understand the basics like this, fundamentals as it's called. So as you are drawing from reference, you also want to figure out how you would draw it yourself from imagination. So so you can see how, again, start with a thumbnail, because it's easy. So let's do that again. So I'm going to just take this because it's kind of an interesting pose. So let's bring that over to here. So notice that I can take this and just draw that again. And you can just use a stick figure if you want, but you'll still get the gesture correct and you'll get the proportions correct. So the whole point of this is so you can make adjustments to the character or the figure. So that's how you get the gesture of it and also the proportion of it correctly. And so the proportions don't always have to look like this, and we'll do more videos about it, but it can look different. This is just like the standard that I use. So the next thing would be, a lot of stuff is just medieval, so I'm trying to find something that isn't. Let me look up something a little different, and I'll edit out the silence. Again, I'm not looking for anything specific. This is to practice drawing, not to design fashion or a costume or anything. It's just going to be whatever I see. So from here, the main thing is figuring out how to take my drawing and turn it into something. So just by looking at a quick, so the Pinterest feed is kind of like a thumbnail also. So I'm just going to take like a quick idea from it. Now, of course, I'm using this as a very for demonstration purposes now, but this is kind of how you learn specific things. So it could be armor, which is what mostly was showing up for me, was armor. But it could be whatever you're wanting to study or draw. And yeah, just like a quick drawing, but we're gonna level it up. So you can see that the pose started from the thumbnail, and you can adjust the proportion here. That's the quick way of doing it. And then develop that. So we're starting to level it up. So that's 10 minutes. I'll do one more because I don't want the video to be too long. So you can start to level it up. And if you're just wanting to get ideas, it could be something specific you could look up. Or it could just be whatever. Because my thing is, I don't really care what I draw. I mean, it depends on what I'm drawing. I mean, sometimes I'm drawing something for a project, but like also if I'm just wanting to draw stuff and learn. So then you can go to here, and then you would do another version of it. And so once you have this, so let's say you wanted to do like a cleaner version of it. And so again, all week long, we'll kind of work on that. Part of this is how to turn your ideas, your brainstorm and thumbnails and stuff and sketches into more finished work is ultimately, but it does take work. And so yeah, we'll do it methodically. So once you have like this, so let's say you have like a sketch. So this is a sketch right here. So it's a little bit more than a thumbnail. I was kind of just looking at reference real quick. One thing is, so like if you're going to do a more finished sketch, it's like, I think this pen was sort of running out. then the line work help. I'm gonna take like the outfit idea, which is just shirt and jeans kind of thing, but I'm gonna draw it better. But I'm gonna make it look like this. So again, this, you could do this again. You could sketch this out more if you want, if it helps, because I can already see the proportions is what I'm saying. So now I can just focus on drawing like the drawing itself, because I already have like but I'm just gonna sketch. It's still gonna be a sketch, because part of that is the size of it. Like I can't put in that much detail. Or if that's kind of difficult, then you could just still do this, but make adjustments to it, because the proportion is right. I think this is the one that's running out, actually. Okay, so yeah, the proportion is right here. So that's part of how to develop the sketch into something more definite, because first of all, you could copy, but what is the point of that? Because there's a photo of it, literally a photo of it that I'm looking at. So I don't see the point in copying, creating a photocopy. So you'll notice just by doing this, it'll look more like an actual person. And I'm just copying like the shape of it. So you don't necessarily have to draw like the anatomy and like every single time. Again, it depends on the purpose of it. If the purpose is to figure out the wardrobe, then really you just want to know like the silhouette of the outfit. And if you keep it sketchy like this, then it can look sketchy and it won't be that annoying. So anyway, that's one way to develop it. And you can see that it's developing, you're leveling up, so to speak, the silhouette and like the detail and stuff. And this is kind of and this is just one approach. This is an approach of just getting some ideas. I like doing this because sometimes, I mean, I'm not going to know if I just have to invent wardrobe, like outfits, it's always going to look kind of the same, because that's its own specialty, is coming up with clothes and stuff like that. So, I mean, sometimes it's going to look pretty much the same. I mean, especially since I'm doing like a fantasy story or whatever setting, it's going to look pretty similar. But this is true also of just the character design. You could do it. We'll go through that. Like we'll do some other videos of that. I kind of want to wrap up this video. So that's, hopefully that kind of makes sense just from what you can see and like what I went over. The main thing today was I just wanted to sort of outline what I'm wanting to work on this week. And then the other thing is the importance of learning like the proportions correctly. So for example, if I do this, or if I do this, for example, you should be able to do a picture that fits here if you want to do more detail right there. So for example, see how like it's a zoomed in version of it. So you should get good at this part. Otherwise, the whole thing of, well, how do you take an idea that you have in your mind and make it something kind of original and make it into a more finished picture isn't going to matter if you don't get this. It's always, because otherwise you'll always need to have the exact reference and it's going to look generic. I mean, and that may be okay, but that's not like what I'm doing. So this is how you get more of your, because this whole thing of like, well, what's your style and stuff? Well, your style is going to naturally come out by doing this. Just like anything else that you do is going to be your style. You don't have to sit and like think about it that much. But it depends on like the process of it. So for example, like with speaking, so as I wrap up this video, if you're going to have to think about everything that you're going to say and how people are going to react and stuff like that, then that's kind of your style, I guess. But that's not really going to be that natural, if that makes sense. So it's the same with drawing or with art or with picture making. The style comes from the fact that everything that I'm doing is the style. That's the thing. But if like you copy and then you try to change it up, it's going to look like you copied something and attempted to change it up a little bit. So this is already, it's kind of the analogy of the cooking that I like to use, where because this is drawing, like pure drawing. Just like with cooking, you can cook from scratch, or you can just use a bunch of pre-made stuff and then wonder why the pre-made stuff doesn't seem like cooking from scratch, is because it's pre-made. You're not gonna make it go backwards. So I'm starting like how to draw from scratch, like how to just know how to draw. And so the style is just, it's just gonna be baked in. So you can see, like, you can start to design a character just based off of like that, because I zoomed in, but you need to know how to do that. You need to know how to draw, and need in quotes. You need to know that if you are kind of following along with my process, or this process. I didn't invent this. This is just something that I've either been taught, or I've learned, or self-taught, or from my own experience. So, but yeah, I wanted to just get this started and wrap up this video. It's going to be about 40 minutes. So you can see, and then the next step is, like you could zoom into the head, but I'll use this as kind of a guide as we go forward. And I can start to do that with like the monsters too, because I personally want to design more creatures for my world building anyway. But I think that'll be good for today. So yeah, before I sign off, I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you like these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.